ready to feel
the power.
This is Colin Crandall over there and myself, Adam Roorda. We are bringing you another amazing episode of MMA Power Hour. Feel the power.
Absolutely. We got a great episode here for you guys, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fans and practitioners. So happy to have you guys here. We have two amazing world-class competitors on the show tonight, and it's going to be a really fun show. A lot of great talk about Jiu-Jitsu and even some talk about MMA, because one of them has competed in MMA and the other one competed in combat Jiu-Jitsu, so they have a really good concept of Jiu-Jitsu when there's strikes involved as well. So our show today, as usual, will encompass the whole entire spectrum of the world of combat sports and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Speaking of which, this show is 100% full spectrum MMA and BJJ, and we know that our one of
amazing partners over there with the full spectrum with Nessa's Hemp. It's mmaph.nessashemp.com to get yourself an amazing discount. And I want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. If you're over on YouTube, make sure at some point to get over to Fight TV. It's FITE.tv. If you're checking us out on Fight TV, make sure to go and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button once you get to the Hannibal TV.
Absolutely. And I know that we have some friends already chiming in. I know on Fight TV we can't see the comments, unfortunately, but Mark, if you're there, Marcus23, thank you so much for anything you're saying and contributing. Over on YouTube we see Shinta, how's it going? And we see Chris, and absolutely Chris is mentioning the best channel on the internet. Hannibal TV is awesome, as is Fight TV. Yeah, so great show. Dr. Adam Roorda, we've got a few minutes. How have you been? You look good as always, nice and comfortable.
You know, I'm doing great, super busy, and I'm going to be telling everybody a bunch of good news here in the near future, but I do have to tell you I'm going to be a little biased on a big boxing matchup coming up here in June. I'm not going to say which one right now. I'm going to let you guys kind of guess. Let's leave them hanging a little bit, Colin, because there's a bunch of big matchups.
Absolutely, man. Can't wait to see you get your hands involved in one of those great matchups. And
you have your hands involved. You're going to be commentating here at a regional submission.
Yeah, I'm going to join the booth. I'm going to join the booth for commentary for the match coming up in Gym Crashers Pro number 2 in San Pedro. You will actually be seeing one of our guests, Kyle Chambers, in action, and I'll join the booth there for that match. And so we'll be happy to jump in and say hello. And
$15 to watch it, guys. So tune in, catch Colin commentating, and yeah, it's awesome. It's over on Fight TV, FITE.tv. Again, right. Keep an eye out over there as well. And
May 7th, Gym Crashers Pro. You got to check it out. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be exciting, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I tell you, Doc, what an interesting weekend we had Saturday watching those fights, man. 3 title fights. You thought
one of the 3 switched hands. I'm happy with that. I know I fell short with 2 of the other ones. It was kind of more like you were thinking with the other.
Well, maybe those. I know you thought all 3 would change hands. I thought that 2 had a good chance of changing hands, but man, was I wrong in that Jessica Andrade. It's funny in that fight because Andrade really didn't take a truckload of punishment, and in fact she just looked kind of like bewildered most of the time. I think she didn't expect that that Valentina would come with a grappling heavy strategy against her, and she really did. It looks like it was a whole bunch of judo throws, a whole bunch of you know, getting her hands locked behind Andrade and controlling her and taking her to the ground. So a lot of grappling, judo, wrestling, and it looks like Andrade and her team just was not expecting that, and nor was, I think, a majority of the fans. I wasn't expecting that, but would have been good maybe if somehow Andrade and her team would have trained for that, but or planned that up. But either way, big respect to the Bullet Valentina, and definitely Thug deserved it. Shinta says without a doubt,
without a doubt, and you know, she showed up and got it done the way she deserved it, just like Usman deserved his win as well.
Yes, absolutely, and I did pick both, and I did pick both of them. I really felt good about Rose, and I really felt good about Usman. But yeah, Rose, both of us had Rose, and I think so many people didn't. I think she was the dog underdog about almost 2-1, and it's just, Thug Rose Namajunas, big respect.
You notice how I didn't even have much to say about it. I just knew she was going to take it. She was going to come in and dominate, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. She did. We had a good suggestion of a guy saying we could switch a time slot because AEW is going on. I appreciate that, none but Christ. For all the wrestling fans, you're probably right, but we are focusing more on MMA, mixed martial arts, combat sports fans, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So probably this spot is what we'll keep, although I appreciate your suggestion, and that would probably allow more wrestling fans to join us. But it is what it is. Anyway, Dr.
Well, and we've been talking about changing up anyways because we've got another group of people watching ONE FC.
Yes, that is true. One championship. They're no longer ONE FC. Well,
but they're forever ONE FC in my mind.
I hear you. They are a fighting championship organization. Yeah, it's a thought, but as of now, we're here, and we're going to keep on doing what we can do. But we may switch it up. We'll see. But we always appreciate suggestions. Anyway, man, Doc. So we still have 3 minutes. So what do you think, man? Some interesting fights coming up here.
Well, let's just go over this one real quick. The Curtis Millender and Rory McDonald in the PFL.
Yeah, that is tomorrow night. And they've also got Gleison Tebow in there with João Zeffirino, and they've got our Jordan Young, who was on our show many times in the previous years. I think he's been out of action for about 1.5 years, going up against Vinnie Meghalaya. Wow. Filthy Tom Lawler against Shoeface Antonio Carlos Jr. Interesting matchups at Bellator. What is it? Bellator. It's a
great way to start their season. Yeah. No, this is
Bellator,
PFL.
Oh, PFL. That's right. PFL.
All these people have signed the PFL.
That's right. Yeah. Ray Cooper III is in it. Curtis is a great guy. Curtis Millender. They're not giving him a chance against Rory. I don't know. I think Curtis is a double tough guy.
I think he's a live dog on this one.
I think he's a live dog too. The bottom line is, if it was Rory 5 years ago, I'd say maybe Curtis is not a live dog. But Rory in 2021, I think Curtis does have a chance. Chris Camozzi on the card too. Wow. This is a packed card. This is a really good card. And Jordan Young against Vinnie Meghalaya.
The odds makers have it right, I'd
pretty
say.
Close. Just a slight edge for Vinnie. If the fight goes to the ground, Jordan is probably in some trouble, especially if Vinnie is on top.
They stay on their feet. Vinnie's in trouble.
If they stay on the feet, Vinnie is probably in trouble. Yeah. And it's a question though, how much Jordan is going to open up, knowing that if it gets on the ground, he doesn't want to slip or fall or twist his ankle. Vinnie doesn't have the best wrestling, so if there's not a mistake made, then Jordan's probably all right. But if Jordan goes for some crazy kick or does something and just lets Vinnie get in his wheelhouse and it goes to the ground, going to be scary. Although I'm sure Jordan is training for that. I think he's still at American Top Team, and I know they're probably helping him out with the jiu-jitsu game. And then on Saturday, the big one.
Let's get back to some of that here in a little bit because we have 1 minute. And I want to go ahead and say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to go on over to our social media and give us a like, comment, share, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Instagram, we're not super active over there right now, but we will be at some point. So make sure to give us follow, likes, comments, shares, everything that you can do to help get the word out about our show and our news source. We've been working real hard to build everything up, and we're going to be putting somebody in here to build up the remaining portion of our rankings the panel, not just the panel itself, but the actual results for our rankings that we're going to be doing every week for cross-promotional ranking within MMA.
Absolutely so, and we really appreciate it. Tell a friend. Shinta, appreciate you with a great suggestion to go for Rory's nose. It's ground beef now. That is true. And Donnie Brasco agreeing that Rory has seen definitely better days. Not what he was Anyway, Dr. Adam Roorda, get ready to do your magic if you would, and we will have that first guest coming on here any second, I believe. Skype dance. Hey, Mason, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. All we needed to do is have you click that icon, and it looks like you did. So we'll give you a proper intro. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, very excited to have this guest on the show for the first time, joining a huge group of MMA champions and top contenders. This man is one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors in the world today. 6-time absolute champion for Chael Sonnen's submission underground grappling. We are talking about the man himself, Mr. Mason Fowler. Welcome to the show, Mason.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for the great introduction.
My pleasure. You deserve it, man. It's great to talk to you. I've been watching you for quite a while, and you're doing amazing things over in SUG. I know Chael Sonnen has always been super high on you, and he's a guy who knows what he's looking at. So much to talk to you about. But before I do, I was just thinking, man, did Chael ever talk to you and mention that if he had had your grappling game in his MMA, he probably would have been a champion many times over? I wonder if you ever chatted with him, because I think he probably really likes your style, and he as a wrestler always had kind of a top heavy in wrestling game, and if he had had your jiu-jitsu, man, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Chael was always really wrestling heavy, and where he did get in trouble at times was with really good jiu-jitsu guys, right? Maybe like getting caught in a triangle, or we saw with Anderson, right? He beat the crap out of Anderson for 5 rounds and then just got caught. So yeah, maybe if he would have had access to some high-level jiu-jitsu back in the day, it wasn't as widespread as it is now. It was a lot harder to find like really high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, I definitely think that could have been a game changer for him.
Absolutely. Now, in the early days, I don't know if you know this, because in the early days of Chael's competing, you were literally not even a teenager yet. And in those early days, he kind of was quiet. He wasn't saying much. All people knew Chael Sonnen for was being a really good wrestler and a tough competitor, but he wasn't talking much. But he also wasn't getting a lot of opportunities, and he finally started realizing, he was one of the first, I think, to see that you got to talk in MMA to try to get some excitement generated. And then he started talking, and he got his image of being a heel. Everyone hated him. One of the things he was saying in those years was that jiu-jitsu wouldn't work against him. And I don't know if he ever really thought that. He probably didn't, but he would embrace that for, I think, 4 or 5 years, maybe in the early 2000s, saying this jiu-jitsu is not going to work. It doesn't work against me. I don't have to learn any, because it's not going to work against me. And now he is the head of a very respected jiu-jitsu league. So, you know, obviously he came around, and it'd be interesting to see if he really did believe that in the beginning, or if that was part of his heel image. But nevertheless, he definitely believes in it now, and he's doing a great job with SUG. And so, what attracted you to submission underground grappling when you first got into that league?
Yeah, so you know, it's funny. It almost happened by accident. I'm friends with Heather Standing on Facebook, who is the matchmaker for Submission Underground.
Right.
Just happened to be friends, right? I didn't even have the connection at the time she was working for Submission Underground, just through the MMA world, whatever. We're friends on Facebook. I'm scrolling through Facebook one day, and I see some post about a 10K tournament with the winner getting a shot at Craig Jones, right? And even when I saw that, when I jumped in, I didn't say like, oh, put me in the tournament, da da da. She had mentioned something about, I guess, a lot of like the lower ranked like belts. A lot of guys were hitting her up to be in the tournament. So she was making a joke like, hey, like, colored belts, don't be hitting me up for this tournament, like, unless you're a black belt or better.
Right.
And so I was I'm a brown belt, right? My coach hasn't promoted me yet. So I took offense to that, because I'm a brown belt, but I know that I can beat a lot of really good black belts.
Yep.
So I just kind of made a comment on there like, oh, well, I know a really good brown belt, or I know a brown belt that gave Craig a really hard match at ADCC, because at that time I had already had one match against Craig, Craig Jones. And then didn't think anything of it. I was just kind of like making a joke, right? And then maybe a week later, Heather messaged me and was like, hey, like, I talked to Craig, and he said that you really deserve to be in the tournament. So if you're serious about it, then we have a spot for you. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, all right, let's do it. And that was maybe like 2.5 weeks out, 3 weeks out from the tournament. So just got straight to work, and, you know, and the rest is history.
Absolutely. And you've been really impressing everyone right out of the gate, and as a brown belt still impressing. And you know, so man, we'll definitely jump into learning a little bit more about you and getting your thoughts on a lot of things. There's a lot of people that want to hear what you have to say, but first let's let you talk about what's coming up next for you, and then I'll throw it out there. Super excited. Chael Sonnen submission grappling number 22, I think it is. We're talking about May 23rd, and you will be defending your absolute title, I think, for the 7th time. And this is going to be against Kyle Chambers from 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. That is going to be super exciting. May 23rd. They're keeping you in action. And, you know, I think probably at 28 years old, it's probably fine for you to go every month. Or would you prefer it be more or less than that?
Man, I do like it every month because it means I'm getting a paycheck every month.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So I have to train no matter what. Like at the gym that I train at with my professor Kyle, I have mandatory training year round. So I mean, maybe Christmas I might get like a week off or whatever. So it's like I have to be there. I pretty much have to be at work, right? So, but if I don't do a competition, I'm not getting paid. So it's like, all right, it makes it kind of worth it, all the hard training, because we train so hard year round, no matter what. So yeah, getting the paycheck once a month is definitely makes the training worth it.
Absolutely. And I know Kyle has beaten one of your training partners. Does that give you bad blood? I think like jiu-jitsu, there's so much honor in it that people usually aren't walking around trying to get revenge. But does that give you any extra motivation to think, hey, his, you know, one for 10th Planet against our guys, now let's make it even when our guys come back and beat that 10th Planet guy? What's your thoughts on that? And what's your thoughts also on the challenges that Kyle presents?
Yeah, so I did kind of I joked with Kyle a little bit when I saw him, and I was like, because he actually he caught a leg lock on one of my really good friends, a good training partner named Kenyella. And Kenyella's leg also was kind of in an awkward position. It was in a really awkward position they were stuck in, and he actually ended up popping his knee, you know, and it was a pretty bad injury. And so I told him like, oh, I'm gonna get revenge for my friend, you know, like you hurt my friend. But it's not really like that though. Right. If anything, the only thing that's gonna do is just give me the awareness of like, okay, like he has a really tough leg lock game. I know firsthand. I've already seen what can happen if you're not fully alert in there, and so I'm not gonna take any chances. And yeah, I think that's the strongest part of his game is his leg locks. But I've also had 3 matches with Craig Jones already, who's arguably the best leg locker in the world, right? Or you know, top 2, top 3 maybe.
For sure.
And he hasn't really gotten to any sort of attacking positions on my legs. Right. And we've already shared the mats for like over 20 minutes. So I think one of my strongest abilities for not getting leg locked is just not accepting the positions, right? They have to get into like a leg lock position and entry in order to attack the legs. So if you just don't accept any of the positions that they can possibly attack from, then I think I'll be able to be pretty safe and then just play my game instead of playing his game.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great match, and it's going to be really interesting to see. We mentioned that he trains out of 10th Planet, and that obviously is a school that has a lot of recognition. But tell us a little bit about where you train, who your instructor or instructors are, and some of your teammates, so we can get some love for your team.
Yeah, so I train at Kyle Terra Academy. It's ran by multiple-time black belt world champ Kyle Terra. And he's produced black belt world champs, and he's also produced an ADCC champ, Yuri, one of my training partners. So he's a specialist in gi and no gi, and he's also wants me to become a specialist in gi and no gi. So I'm not only doing no gi training, I'm also training a lot in the gi, and I do expect to return to more gi tournaments whenever the world opens up from COVID.
Absolutely. One of our guests was asking if you wanted to give Jones a crack at evening the win-loss column, because you're up 2-1 now, if you consider 2 in SUG and 1 in ADCC. What's your thoughts on that? Would you like to see the Aussie again to give him a chance to tie it up?
Yeah, I would love, and I know he would also love, to do a match, another match under like the ADCC rule set. So that's the rule set that he beat me in.
Right.
I don't think he really wants to do the submission underground rule set again because it's very heavy into like the overtimes, right?
Yep.
And I think I've showed that I can beat him in the overtime, right? I have 2 wins over him in the overtime. So I think for both of our sakes, I think that an ADCC rules match would be the most competitive and also the most exciting version of me and him grappling each other.
I think so.
The first ADCC match was like really crazy, a lot of scrambles. It was really exciting.
Absolutely. And what's your thought? Are you planning on doing ADCC coming up?
Yeah, I just don't. It was supposed to be 2021, but with COVID, it got delayed to maybe early 2022. The trials all got delayed. So at this point, I'm in kind of a weird spot because I have had some pretty good wins in the past year or so. So I'm not sure if I'm in the area yet where I should be getting an invite, or I might have to go back and do the trials. So I definitely want to compete, but it's not just like you can't just sign up and compete, right? You have to either be invited or you have to win the trials. So I'm still trying to navigate the route of how I'm going to get there, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's my overall goal. That's pretty much my life's goal right now, is to win ADCC.
Excellent, and that would be great. Love to see you in it, man. And you know, it's definitely going to be exciting. If anyone wants to touch base, that's expert on the process there, because it'd be nice if they didn't have to keep Mason in limbo. Either let him know that he's got to qualify or invite him. So if anyone knows, you know, exactly what goes on there, you know, maybe let me know, or you let Mason know directly. Mason, what's the best social media place to hit you up?
Yeah, and I have actually I've reached out to the head of the guy that runs ADCC, and he told me it would be safe to do the trials. So that's why I'm kind of like, okay, I'm planning on doing the trials, but if something happens and I slip up at the trials, it would be nice to also get an invite, right?
Yep, without a doubt. Makes sense. So let me ask you, Craig Jones, you had lost to him at ADCC, and then we were going to compete with him and in SUG, Submission Underground Grappling. How much time was there between the ADCC match and the first SUG match with Craig?
I got injured at ADCC. I actually haven't really spoke about this at all, but the first match too at ADCC with Craig, my knee was completely blown out. I tore one of the ligaments.
Oh, man.
I had a pretty serious tear that I sustained in my first match. So that whole second match, if anyone is familiar with that match, me and Craig, it's free on YouTube. If you go back and rewatch it, then there's definitely a couple points you can see my leg wobble and my legs kind of give out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was out for a while. I actually came back and competed in one tournament, the Nogi Worlds, but I was still injured, and I didn't really train the way I would have liked to because I was limited due to my injury.
Sure.
And I didn't have a good performance there at all. That was maybe 2 or 3 months after ADCC.
Okay.
So then I realized, like, man, I shouldn't be even trying to train or compete right now. I need to let this thing heal. And I took another couple months off, and then I think the 10K tournament for SUG was the next time I competed. And I think that might have been like in June. So I went about 6 months without a competition. And of course, there was COVID at that time too. So not a lot of things were open for me to be competing in.
Gotcha. And you were already the champ at SUG. What was your mindset going into that, knowing you had competed him, you had lost in ADCC, but also knowing you had been injured, you know, and especially knowing that it had been a leg injury, and this guy's, you know, one of the kings of leg locks. Obviously, if you saw odds going into that fight, you were the underdog, and a lot of people were thinking Craig Jones is just going to come in here and beat Mason Fowler, because a lot of people didn't know who you were. What was your mindset going into it, and were you reading any people's opinions, or were any people trying to hit you up saying, Mason, get ready to say goodbye to your SUG championship, and was anyone being an idiot like that? Or what was the atmosphere and the mindset as far as just you personally and what you were reading and any feedback you were getting from fans?
Yeah, so the first thing is my knee. Luckily, my knee was fully healed before then, and haven't had any problems since then too. So I've been really lucky with that injury. And you know, when I lost at ADCC, there was also some controversy there. And the head of ADCC and Craig have both come out and spoken about it. There was a sequence where I scored a takedown on him, and for whatever reason, the points never showed up on the board.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's not
So the match was 0-0, and there was like a minute or 30 seconds left, and at the end of the regulation, it would have went into an overtime, and I was really trying to score so that we wouldn't have to go to the overtime. So when there was about 30 seconds left, I shot kind of like a desperation shot, and I got caught in a guillotine, and he ended up choking me. So when you go back and thinking about it, it's like, man, if I would have got the 2 points, I could have just kind of like stalled out the time, and then I would have won, right? So that was really eating me up for a long time. And then I'm hurt, and I'm sitting out, and I'm just thinking about that match. And, you know, it could have been this great underdog story where I came in as a nobody, and I beat Craig, who was like the #1 seed. So that really stung deep. So I was just really motivated to get another crack at him. And now, with that being said, the Submission Underground rule set, it's a very, very tricky rule set when you have a match against Craig Jones, because it's 5 minutes sub only. There's no points. The way that I was close to beating him in ADCC was being able to score points on him, right? So I think that any kind of points tournament would be kind of more of an advantage to me, because I have the ability to take him down or sweep him. And then any kind of submission only tournament, Craig's one of the best submission artists in the game, right? So that's kind of more his rule set. And then you have the EBI overtimes, which I had never competed in before. That was actually it's funny because now everyone says I'm like an EBI overtime competitor. That's my specialty, but I had never done that before.
Interesting.
And he was very seasoned in that. He had done a bunch of the EBIs back in the day. He had a match with Gordon Ryan under the EBI rules. He's been through it all, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't doubting that I was going to be an underdog, but luckily I have a great team behind me. I pretty much owe Kyle, my coach, all the credit, because he's technically so good that he was able to create a whole system for the EBI overtimes, and we pretty much just like trained that system over and over again, and luckily I was able to get it down good enough to be able to beat Craig in the overtimes.
Absolutely. It was very impressive. One of our big supporters and fans, Shinta, I think from Scotland or from Scottish background, has just said that Craig is a submission machine. Your beating him was awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. And so in that matchup, a lot of people remember when the match was called by like a verbal tap where he kind of like grunted out a little bit in pain. A lot of people don't realize that there was a kind of a one before that where he kind of made a noise also. And I remember reading or watching you talk about that as well, where it looked like there was another possible verbal submission. And then finally, when the referee stopped it, it was like a second verbal submission. And Craig genuinely seems surprised at the stoppage. And I know there's no bad blood between you and Craig. I'm not trying to stir any up, but it seemed almost like if it was a second noise that could have been a verbal submission, you probably were not surprised when the referee stopped it. Were you surprised at all that Craig was so surprised?
I don't know. I mean, the example I can give you is if you watch sometimes like the UFC fights, like I don't know if you saw Rose knock out Wei Li, right?
Yes.
Wei Li was clearly out.
Yeah.
But she was so amazed that she lost that she like protested it.
Right.
So no matter what, whether it's which I do think that stoppage, you can definitely see that it was controversial.
Yep.
But whether or not it's controversial, a lot of the time you see that, you know, the competitors are just in disbelief.
Right.
But going back, that one definitely was controversial. But the good thing about the story is that in the rematch, I did the same exact thing to him, and he also made a noise again. But then after the ref didn't stop it for him making the noise, he physically tapped with his hand. So I actually think I probably did wrong, because when he was making the noises, I looked at the ref and I actually said like verbal tap. Right. And then he made another noise, and then the ref stopped it. Maybe if I didn't say that to the ref, he would have made a couple noises and then physically tapped like he did the second time, and then it would have saved It would have saved everyone a lot of headache, right?
Absolutely.
But go ahead.
Speaking of which, being that there was that controversy in that first match, and with the fact of the points not being awarded for your takedown in ADCC, did that have kind of double the frustration in your head going into the second match? Did it kind of compound? I imagine it did, probably, huh?
Yeah, because then it's like everyone's just like discrediting the win, right?
They're saying you still haven't beat Craig Jones, right?
Yeah, but then no one discredited his win at ADCC.
Right.
And, like Flow Grappling actually put out an article, and I think the title of it was like, Craig Jones just got screwed or something like that.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but I also got screwed too at ADCC. Like, I didn't have an article.
Right.
And then after the second match, when he tapped with the same exact submission that was called a verbal tap in the match before, everyone that was talking crap about the stoppage, no one said anything even about the second one. So,
right.
So what that whole experience taught me pretty much is that no one cares about the little guy, right? And when you are going up against the favorite, sometimes you have to make it decisive. You can't count on getting points sometimes, or you know what I mean? So I just I'm not gonna complain about anything that happened or cry about it. I've been blessed to continue the streak that I'm on at Submission Underground, and Chael has really taken care of me. He really takes care of me. I'm really grateful for that, and I feel like I'm in a really good position right now. Professionally, I'm in a good position financially. I was able to upgrade my living situation. Good. So everything is going good for me right now, and I try to not like hang on to the frustration, or really I'm at the point now where I don't even really care anymore about anyone else's opinion. Good. If someone like messages me or like starts commenting on my stuff with a bunch of negativity, I'll just block them. Like, I'm not even going to entertain it, dude. It's whatever. Yeah, that's the best way to do it. And, and I like to hear that also from a young competitor like yourself. I know you just turned 28 a few years ago, and I not that I don't like my younger brothers that I trained with in jiu-jitsu, but a lot of the younger millennials, man, just love getting on there and throwing the hate on everyone just for the fun of it on social media. And I know a lot of young guys like yourself feel like, hey, I'm young, you're going to talk trash to me, I'll just spend 4 hours talking trash to you. And I'm glad that you have the maturity to just say, nah, that's just stupid. I mean, why bother? Because it doesn't get anywhere. I mean, normally if you go to any one of anyone that like talks crap on someone who's successful, if you go to their page, one, it's usually private. Yep. If it's not private, it's usually someone who just looks like they're miserable in their life. They're probably not happy. They probably work at McDonald's or Walmart. Yep. So it's like, you're not mad at me, man. You're mad at yourself, and you're just going to try to make me feel bad to make you feel better. So, right. And that's been actually, that's how I feel. Like, I feel sorry for people when they go and talk crap on other people, because I'm like, man, you must have a horrible life where this is what you do in your free time, man. Yeah. That's usually what it is. And, for so many years, man, since society started, if anyone can bring someone else down to their level, and make them feel like crap, then they can go, okay, well, I feel better now because I was able to make this successful person, miserable, and throw them. So yeah, it's good you have that maturity to realize you don't want to bite into that. I mean, some guys like Gordon Ryan, he'll go after all of them. Yeah, well, yeah. So, you know what I mean? But I just, that's not me, dude. But I wish I was like that, where I just was like talking shit to all of them back. But the crazy thing is too, you'll see like someone will say like whatever, like fuck Gordon, or sorry, I don't know if I can cut. That's all right. F Gordon Ryan or whatever. Yep. And then he'll go on there and say something, and then they'll be like, oh no, I was just kidding, man. I'm such a fan. Yeah. You know what I mean? They want that interaction with you. Without a doubt. Let me ask you about something interesting really quick, and this is, maybe something that fans might be curious about, although I don't know if anyone cares that much anymore. But remember that craziness with Gordon and Galvao after a tournament match, I think about a month or so ago, where Gordon went to shake Galvao's hand and Galvao pushed him, and then all that craziness ensued where Gordon ended up slapping him twice. Do you have any thoughts on that? I guess pretty much there's no argument that everyone feels that
since Galvao pushed him, whatever Gordon did and however angry Gordon was 100% justified. But then some people were also saying to Galvao, hey man, why did you let him bitch slap you like that? Why didn't you go and smash his face in? You know, what's your thought, if I could ask, on what you saw there and how that went down?
Yeah, I think that Gordon really played that situation perfectly because he didn't look like the bad guy, right? Because he wasn't really like instigating the fight. But then when the fight happened, he really won it, right? He slapped him once or twice, and Galvao didn't slap him or hit him back. But yeah, I understand Galvao didn't want to fight because maybe, I don't know, he might be worried about his visa or his citizenship or something like that.
Yeah.
But then also like I don't know, you can't flip another man off, a grown man off straight to his face, or like put your hands on him and then think that nothing's going to happen too, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think Gordon definitely got the better out of that situation.
Yeah, it definitely is an interesting scenario and unfortunate. And, you know, obviously the pushing of Gordon was not good by Galvao, but then I think all the random people jumping on calling Galvao a bitch for not fighting back, I don't know if I respect that either. I think, like you said,
yeah, there's more to the story, you know what I mean? It's not that he didn't want to fight Gordon. It's more, I think, that he just didn't want any of the repercussions that could have happened,
right,
if someone got hurt or whatever.
Exactly, because Galvao fought MMA for a while, and if he starts hitting people, someone could bring that up and say, hey, you're an MMA fighter, you're assaulting, this is assault and battery. And, you know, so yeah, it makes sense. You know what it reminds me of that crazy scenario that happened you know, a couple of years back, where I think Ralph Gracie headbutted the other Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor. It's unfortunate.
Oh, he elbowed him.
That was it. Yeah. That was it. And you know who it was? It was Ricardo Almeida's brother. You know,
I think his name. What is his name? Flavio, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Flavio Almeida.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. Although I know Ralph Gracie's a passionate guy, but you know, a lot of intensity and passion goes into jiu-jitsu, man. And I know you know about MMA, having fought and being undefeated in MMA. Let me ask your opinion. We've got looks like about 6 minutes left, 5 or 6 minutes in MMA. Are there any people who you really like for their jiu-jitsu in MMA? And obviously there's some people that a lot of people know, but are there any people that you think, you know what, I really like this guy's jiu-jitsu for MMA?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one for the longest time was Damian Maia, right?
Yep.
I'm honestly trying to think. You caught me off guard with this.
I hear you. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Thug Rose has some good jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. It's just tough because
Charles Oliveira. How about Charles Oliveira?
Oh yeah. Charles Do Bronx. Yep. He's got really nasty jiu-jitsu. But what we've seen in the recent years is we've seen a lot of really high-level jiu-jitsu guys that haven't really made it to the top of the UFC, such as like Hodge or Gracie, or man, I can't think of the guy that just lost. He's a legend.
Ricardo Vieira, or no, not Vieira.
Vieira.
Yeah,
Vieira.
It's just tough because if you don't have any wrestling, or you don't have much wrestling, that's one of the problems, isn't it? If you have jiu-jitsu but you can't get it to the ground.
I think what the best combo is, honestly, and this is me as a jiu-jitsu athlete, I think the best combo is really high-level wrestling with solid jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen in like Khabib.
Yes. Right? Yes. How would you have liked to do like a jiu-jitsu match only with Khabib? That would have been pretty interesting. I know you're a little bit bigger than him, but maybe not. Well, a little bit, but he probably walks around heavier. But what do you think?
People actually ask me that a lot, and I definitely would love to do it, but I would never call him out or ask for the match out of respect, because I live here in San Jose and train here in San Jose, and AKA is just down the street, and I do go and cross train with them sometimes. So I would never publicly call him out, right? Because I just think that's disrespectful if I'm like going there and training sometimes too.
Absolutely. That must have been cool doing some training over there. DC's there, Habib, his cousins, his brothers. Any interesting stories about doing some training over there with any of the guys? Any interesting things that you learned from them or they learned from you?
Yeah, I mean, I went to DC's wrestling class a bunch when I was training for ADCC. And I mean, the coolest thing that happened is you see me in the background of like this video that went viral of Khabib and DC talking, and then I'm kind of in the background, and probably like they posted it on ESPN, and probably 200 people sent it to me, you know.
Nice.
So that was probably the coolest thing that happened there.
Very, very cool. One of our guest fans has a question, and he's asking if it was GSP versus Habib in a straight grappling match, who wins in your opinion?
Wow, a straight grappling match. Man, maybe Habib. The only reason I think Habib's wrestling is better.
Yeah.
And I think that if Habib gets on top of someone, they lost, right? Especially in a straight grappling match.
Yep.
And I think George was known as a great wrestler, and he was very dominant on top. But I don't think that George's bottom game would be high level enough,
right,
to be able to play bottom against Khabib, because George and Habib are both top players. But I think Khabib would maybe have the higher chance of getting George down. With that being said, George has a bigger frame and is more explosive. So I definitely, it could go either way, but I would say that Habib would have a little bit of a better chance.
And real quick, because we only got a couple minutes left, if it was MMA GSP against Habib.
See, that one's a little tougher because I think in MMA, with the size and the punching power, would have a little bit more. Like, man, I mean, it's 50-50. It's two goats, right?
Yep.
I would say it's 50-50. I can't even make a pick.
Understood. Yeah, it's definitely too close for most of us to call. Last one, I'd love your opinion on Charles do Bronx Oliveira again. That's a really interesting matchup, I think. Give me maybe 30 seconds of how you think that fight unfolds, and then a winner if you can pick one.
Yeah, I think that has fight of the year potential written all over it. We definitely can see a knockout at any time with Michael Chandler's power, right?
Mm-hmm.
We could see Do Bronx just kind of piecing him up on the outside with his length. He also has really sharp boxing, but Michael Chandler is definitely the more explosive athlete. I think if Chandler takes down Do Bronx, then he definitely has a chance of getting submitted. So, I would have to go with Charles Oliveira if I had to make a pick. But I'm a big fan of Michael Chandler too, and man, that's one of the best fights of the year, I think.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about it. Well, I'm super excited about your fight coming up in submission, underground, grappling, defending your absolute title against Kyle Chambers, May 23rd, only on UFC Fight Pass. Mason Fowler, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I really, really want to thank you and appreciate your time coming on the MMA Power Hour here, and we'd love to talk to you again somewhere down the line.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Later.
And that was Mason Fowler, the champ of Chael Sonnen's submission underground grappling. Really good guy, don't you think, Doc?
Excellent guy. A lot of great insights, and one of the most talented grapplers on the planet.
Yeah.
Known probably best for beating Henzo back in the day. It's one of many, many things that he's accomplished. So.
Mason Fowler, well, that I don't know.
No, Mason didn't do that.
No, Mason didn't beat Henzo.
That was Mike, wasn't it? Yeah.
You know who beat Henzo? I don't know.
I think it was Mike Fowler. I'm seeing that right now. Yeah.
That could be it. There we go. That looks like someone else. Yeah, Mike Fowler. I don't know who that is. But
I'm totally messing it up, but this guy is a beast. And
that's okay.
Really
Mason Fowler is amazing, and I'll tell you what,
he's en route to turn around and do the same type of thing.
And he beat Greg Jones, which is kind of the lineage of Henzo. And then if he beats Gordon Ryan, that will absolutely that will be the highest level Henzo Gracie student, if he would. And people really want to see that match. And hopefully one day, they're both in very niche leagues that are very specific and unique rule sets. And so Flow Grappling, Gordon would love to have Mason compete there on his turf, but then Mason would love to have Gordon compete on his turf and Sugg, and the reality is the rules are so different. For one to go to the other, they're putting themselves at a big disadvantage. There'd have to be some money there, or somehow some co-promotion with some modification of the rules. Maybe one day. They're both young, and can't wait to see that, but can't wait to see Kyle against Mason. And speaking about Kyle Chambers, we are ready for him whenever.
Yeah, let's go into our next Skype dance. For those of you who are just tuning in right now, whether you're on Fight or the Hannibal TV on YouTube, make sure to go to the other place. Make sure to subscribe and check us out on Fight TV. You got to look for MMA Power Hour, and if you're on Fight TV going over to YouTube, it's the Hannibal TV.
Absolutely, thank you, and you're welcome to Donnie Brasco for the comments. You're welcome, and thank you, Andre Corbell Wrestling, for saying you're glad to see me on this channel. Appreciate you, brother. And Donnie Brasco, yeah, I know Eddie Bravo had that win over Henzo. Was it Henzo Hoyler? Hey, Kyle, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yep, excellent. And all we need to do is press that icon that looks like a video camera, and we will be able to see you. And once we have that, we got it. Okay, so I want to give you a great introduction here since we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with our first guest, we are talking about all-world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors on the MMA Power Hour today. This next man represents Eddie Bravo's 10th Planet, one of the most exciting and talented jiu-jitsu competitors to come out of that amazing school, with an amazing match coming up in submission underground grappling against Mason Fowler. So happy to have on the show for the first time, Mr. Kyle Chambers. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thank you guys for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Ours too. Quick question for you, since for some reason I was having a brain freeze. The big match that the creator of your style, 10th Planet, Eddie Bravo, had, where he beat a Gracie about 20 years ago, it was it Hoyler or Henzo? I think it was Henzo, right? Or am I wrong?
Hoyler.
It was Hoyler. Yep, that's what I thought. So I did call it right. There we go. And that was incredible. You ever hear him talk about stories about that? Because that really, without that huge win, I mean, by that win, we might not even see 10th Planet the way it is now, because that win got him so much respect and, so much shine. I mean, I don't think anyone had tapped a Gracie for years. And did he ever talk about that and say how important that was and how exciting that match was for him?
He just explains a lot of times just the importance of the respect factor and how that kind of shined the light on just our type of jiu-jitsu, because we always have just kind of now about the old school versus traditional and American versus Brazilian, just that whole debate. He was just talking about the importance of how that kind of showed the importance of kind of like the new school and kind of what we kind of bring to the game, and the importance of full guard capabilities and just little things. He's just little importance, but not too much in depth. But yes.
Absolutely. Now you're a black belt and I'm not, and you're a high level guy. I'm not. I'm a purple belt working on trying to be somewhat of a medium level guy. So looking back on it, I believe that was a triangle that Eddie caught Hoyler in. But can you give a little bit more detail? Were there any special 10th Planet techniques and names that I might not be familiar with that went into the setup of that submission that Eddie got on Hoyler?
Rather double check on rewatching the setups and stuff, because I can't recall at the moment. But when I rewatch, I can definitely recall, let you know. But I can't recall at the moment.
No problem. I'm sorry to throw that too, because that was definitely a question no one would have expected, and I'm sorry to throw that curve, asking about something from 25 years ago. I was just sitting here thinking, man, what was that? But anyway, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you not being upset. But man, so much to talk to you about. Big match, especially coming up for you on May 23rd against Mason Fowler in submission underground grappling. First of all, I think people have to acknowledge that amazing intro to this last submission underground grappling event, where you were doing that grappling with your teammate and just flowing there for what, probably 5, 6, 7 minutes. That was really amazing. And I think that just got to show a lot of the amazing skills that you have. Did that turn out just the way that you wanted to? Did they keep that a surprise and not let you see it until you saw it that day, or did they show you and get your thoughts and approval before releasing that?
They actually showed me a little bit of clip after. So Ryan actually showed it maybe 3 days prior, and I've actually seen it on Cub Swансon's page on YouTube, and we got a little bit of good comments and good feedbacks on that a couple of days prior. But it was completely a surprise to actually see it on Sug, UFC Fight Pass. I'm actually warming up, getting into that correct mind space, and then next I turn my head, and it's right there. Right as I'm warming up, right before all the matches started. So that was completely a surprise. But I did see it before that day, but it was definitely a surprise to see it on UFC Fight Pass on Fight Day.
Yeah, that was really, really cool, man. And I'm glad they did that. So, man, you have an amazing style. 10th Planet has some great schools. One of my friends wanted me to ask you, which 10th Planet are you training out of mostly or lately?
Mostly it's 10th Planet Oceanside under Giovanni Martinez. We're part of like the freak schools.
Yep.
All started at 10th Planet Vista. That's a lot of our main black belts originated at. It was me, Kevin. You also know Jill's brother, Bug. A couple other black belts, and we ended up branching off in a couple different schools in San Diego County. Richie also has Mission Gorge. Kevin has Poway, and we have Oceanside. So I'm at the Oceanside location.
Excellent. And is Oceanside the one they call 10th Planet Freaks, or is that another one?
No, so we're 10th Planet Oceanside, and all of our schools together are the 10th Planet Freaks.
Okay, nice. I like that. So your style is amazing, man. I know you're one of these long guys. You got those legs, man. I've never been a super long-legged guy, and man, when I would always train with guys with the legs, if they didn't know their jiu-jitsu, it wasn't a problem. But when you got the long, tall guys like yourself that know their jiu-jitsu and especially know how to play off their back, man, I tell you, like, I went up against one guy once and I thought I was pretty good. We were both, I think, just turned purple belts. I hadn't even seen him, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna compete against this guy. He's 5 inches taller than me, but it doesn't matter. I said, if I don't beat this guy, I'm gonna make it close. I think I got submitted in 3 seconds. He did something with his legs, and all of a sudden, I'm literally giving him my neck for a guillotine choke. And I'm like, now, wait a second here. Wait a second here. What just happened? Because this is ridiculous. I said, I'm not this bad a jiu-jitsu guy, right? And then I saw him do the same thing to about 6 other guys in a row. And I said, okay. I said, it's not that I'm that bad a jiu-jitsu guy. It's that I guess guy knows how to do something with his legs. And that's an interesting thing, because along with the leg locks, there's just stuff that you do with the movement of your legs. Have you found that because of the length that you have, that's not... nothing's easier, but that kind of flows naturally, or gives you a lot of different options that really work good for your frame, or then has that never really been anything that presented itself to you as being necessarily here nor there?
I definitely believe that my body type does give me advantages. I feel like, in jiu-jitsu, we always say everything is angle based, anyway, like, it doesn't matter if I'm short, tall, like, everybody can do a triangle, everybody can do whatever just because of the angle, just a lot of reps, you're able to do it. But I definitely think that my body gives me benefits in my different style of why I move a certain way, I definitely feel like it gives me a benefit in why I play a certain way. But yeah, I definitely believe that it gives me a competitive advantage, and that's why I move the way I move.
Gotcha. Now, let me ask you, as a purple belt that I am, even to this day, I don't even really 100% get how I got caught and how these guys got caught so much by that guy. What is a guy doing for kind of the intermediate or beginning jiu-jitsu players that might be watching, or just the fans? What is a guy doing from the bottom with long legs that all of a sudden puts a guy on top of him in this position where he then catches him with a submission real quick? Can you explain a little bit about what could be going on there?
I feel like it's a lot easier with guys with long legs on bottom. It's really easy for us to manipulate your guys' upper body, or short people's bodies, or people with shorter limbs, I should say. Easier to set up triangles, easier for sweeps, easier for leg locks. So I feel like a person that's just starting, especially you don't really understand those kind of concepts, you don't really see all the different entries or attacks, you probably fall right into. You probably put your hands in the wrong place. You put their 2 arms in. You said the 2. You know how you have like the rule 2 arms in and 2 arms out. You probably have 1 arm in, and you're trying to pass somebody's guard. And a guy that's lanky, if you have your arm in the wrong place for 1 second, you're really susceptible for for triangles or arm jacks to the back and stuff like that. So I feel like that's probably happening to a lot of people that are going against those people with those type of body types, especially when you first start, when you're not used to seeing those different type of body matchups, you know?
Absolutely. And one of our watchers just said leverage, movement, energy. So I guess probably all three of those things are important, huh?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Now let me ask you, a lot of people get to blue belt from white. Some don't. Some never get that first belt. And then less people get to purple belt from blue. A lot less people ever make it to brown. And then very few people make it to black. When you were going through those earlier belts, let's say blue, almost purple, or just getting purple, and to the point where you were finding once in a while you were getting submitted in 4 seconds, what allowed you to not be one of the masses that gets discouraged and says, man, what am I doing here? I'm getting submitted even though these guys are black belts or brown belts, but if I'm getting submitted in 4 seconds here, why don't I just stop wasting my time? What allowed you to be able to, or were you ever discouraged like that? And if so, how did you push it through and be one of the unique guys to be able to get the advanced belts and continue on?
I feel like when you first start, it's good to have a good balance. Sometimes if you're a white belt and you're only going against blue belts or purple belts, sometimes it's hard to see your progression. So you might get discouraged really easily, you know what I mean? And if you're going against blue belts or purple, you're like, I'm never getting better. I've been going every single day for 3 months and I'm still getting tapped out every day. Same thing if you're a purple belt, you're going against only black belts and purple belts. I would say is that balance. Go against, blue belts, purple belts as well. Not just in competition, but just in roles, just so you can build up the confidence, and that'll keep you to keep going, because it's a journey. Like they say, jiu-jitsu is a journey. If you're getting discouraged during your journey because you're getting tapped out so much, maybe you should just limit it down a little bit. Keep going against your level, and that's going to build up your confidence. And when you're able to step out of your comfort zone, go against those brown belts, and eventually you keep getting more taps from those brown belts. You might get tapped because they're higher belts than you, but eventually you keep getting that confidence of it. You keep getting those taps, and I feel like that helps you continue your journey, because you understand that you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but eventually you're going to, get those W's. You're going to be a nail at first, but eventually you can start being that hammer,
Absolutely, right? They say you're going to be one or the other at different points in your life, and sometimes you will be that nail, and it's just being able to go through it, like you said, to end up being the hammer. Speaking of which, tell us what led you into the journey to where you are now to be such a great jiu-jitsu competitor. Start us back maybe when you were in high school, and maybe give us some more of the interesting points about what your athletic background was, and then what led you into the world of jiu-jitsu. Were there any people that you looked up to in the sport of BJJ or MMA or anything like that?
Absolutely, yeah. So I've been really doing sports my whole life. I've been really active since like really 5 years old, doing track, and then all the way up to, like you said, high school, doing track, football, wrestling, basketball, all that stuff, and eventually going into college to doing football. And about after my sophomore year, stopped doing all sports completely. And, I've always been watching every kind of football, basketball on TV, been doing MMA. My brother's been watching K1 back in the day, Pride, all that stuff. So I've already kind of understood what MMA was about and stuff like that, but I never really been interested. Like I never did that first step to go into like a gym and learn it. Like I did wrestling in high school, so it got me interested in grappling and stuff like that, and I had a good understanding of it. But it wasn't until about, I believe, my sophomore year in college, I actually came back here to California, and one of the girls I was seeing at the time, one of my friends, we were working at the time, and he was just like, I have to go work out after this. Do you want to possibly come join with me? And he was like, it's jiu-jitsu. Have you heard of this? And I was like, yeah, I heard about it back in the day. Like my brother used to watch all these old films, of all these, K1 boxers and like old Hoist Gracie and all that stuff, the old UFC films and stuff like that. Yep. So I was like, I definitely heard of it, but I don't have any experience of it. So I'd be more than welcome to go if you're inviting me, if that's what you're offering, And the first gym I ever went to, like Gio was the instructor,
Gio Martinez.
So like, Gio Martinez. So, of course, I just been playing football my whole life. So I'm a pretty big guy, at the time I'm probably like 6'2", like 215. So I'm like, have like a little bit of an ego too. Like, oh, this little guy, Gio's like 5'7", like 145, right. I'm like, this guy is like the instructor, like, okay. And it was like, he showed us this technique. It was like a hip bump sweep. Very, very useful. I'll still use it today. Very, very useful. Just full guard, you know, if you're in danger, guys threatening you, learn how to get to a better position, you know, get into full mount or to take the back and stuff like that. So very, very good technique. I remember today, just like it was yesterday. And then I remember we were going about the roll. So like he goes a roll with me, and I'm like, this little guy, like, what does he got to offer me? You know, like, I'm this big, like I'm just gonna easily just overpower him. And I just remember the first couple of minutes, you know, I go in his guard, I'm like, I'm dominating. Next, you know, I got a foot on my face. I'm like, what is this? You know? And I'm like, go plata, you know, go plata like 2 or 3 times. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, this little guy that's like 70 pounds smaller than me is go plata me. But I didn't know what it was called at the time.
He was tapping
his foot in my face and tapping me. I'm like, man, like, if he could do this to me, imagine what I could do with some discipline and training and, you know what I mean, this time, you know? So after that, you know, he introduced me to the rest of the fam. That's how I introduced, met Boog and all them, you know, and, you know, after that, I just got addicted. That's kind of how I got introduced to jiu-jitsu. I just learned that if, you know, body control with better body control and discipline, you know, anything's kind of possible. And if he could do that, why can I do it, you know? So
absolutely. And you probably had some good rolls with Richie Boogie Martinez, because he's a little bit more close to your size, but you had probably some great scrambles with him, I'm sure, as time went by.
I was actually his first MMA partner, if you didn't know that.
No, so, I did not. Nice.
We didn't have, we were basically a small gym, you know. He was getting his amateur career in MMA striking and stuff like that, and we didn't have anybody else. And since we were similar to body types, we just ended up working together a lot. And yeah, that's the beginning of the story.
Absolutely. So you spent a little bit of time in combat jiu-jitsu, and I'd love to hear about that, because I think that a lot of people that are MMA fans are liking jiu-jitsu, but they're always wanting to kind of get a taste of it when there's some punches thrown. And as you know, also, there's some people out there, either they just don't understand the beauty of jiu-jitsu, or they're just so much into striking that all they can walk around and say, yeah, well, that wouldn't work if someone's punching you and this and that, right? So what was that? What kind of motivated you to get into it, or were you just curious, or what got you into the combat jiu-jitsu? What's your thought about it, and is that something you're actually looking to continue or not?
Absolutely. To answer your first question, yeah, man, as a black belt, you want to know, like, the question, like, does my jiu-jitsu work in a real life application? Like, if I get in a street fight, or if, you know, a life or death situation, the craft that I've been practicing for 8 years, is it gonna really save me? You know, so combat jiu-jitsu, I was like, that's a good, you know, when strikes are involved, let's see if these positions that I've been working are really effective, you know? So that's one reason why I wanted to try combat jiu-jitsu. Another reason why I felt comfortable to do combat jiu-jitsu is because our system, Planet system, is made for a combat like environment. It's made for MMA. It's made for, you know, those clinch game, that kind of stuff. So I was really confident to even try it, you know? And of course, I'm really interested to keep doing it, because I like the aspect of the no stalling, you know. It's just like you get penalized for stalling, not engaging, you know. And I feel like in my style and regular jiu-jitsu, a lot of people kind of stall against me, you know. They don't really push forward and like bring the action. And I love in combat jiu-jitsu, you get penalized for kind of stepping away. So definitely, I'll look forward to kind of testing myself even further and doing more combat jiu-jitsu in the future.
Absolutely, it's an interesting sport, and I think a lot of people are starting to get behind it, and it's definitely exciting. What about MMA? Would that be something that you would also be open to? I know you're 28 years old. You know, it's ironic, because both you and Mason are 28 years old. I think you're like 6 months older than Mason, so you guys are just right there, just barely getting into your prime. You know, but what's your thought about that? I know he did it before his career, and is really wanting to focus on the grappling only. But is the MMA something you're open to? Have you had anybody put any bug into your ear about that, or anyone talking into your ear about MMA?
Yeah, people constantly like kind of like, they're like, you're already a high level jiu-jitsu. We just work on a little bit of striking here and there. You'd be a good like person here for like I don't know. Me personally, UFC sounds cool, you know, but I don't want to get punched in the face. Like I love, like I went to school, you know, like I love jiu-jitsu because the art, you know, is one of my passions. But I went to school, so I definitely want to go to law school. I feel like that's like my next step, you know, after like jiu-jitsu, going to law school, doing that part. But nothing wrong with MMA. I love it. You know, I have full respect for everybody that does it, you know. But for me, nah, I just like love doing jiu-jitsu, and combat jiu-jitsu. Combat jiu-jitsu is probably like the furthest I'm gonna go.
Makes sense. I respect that completely. So in jiu-jitsu, there are different weight classes than in MMA. Can you talk about the weight classes that you have competed at and that you currently compete at? Is it just one, or are there a couple different weight classes? And if so, what are the weight limits?
Yeah. So currently, I compete at 185 middleweight. When I first started, I used to go a little bit heavier, around 205, and then I did like a 196. But over the years, actually probably after the first like 3 or 4 competitions, I found like I move better, I feel better, I like competing more at 185. I feel like people are more technical at 185, if that makes sense. I feel like the higher weight you go, people start relying on more on strength and bruteness. I don't know. This is my opinion. I'm not saying that's actual factual, but I'm just saying my opinion. Like I just felt like people were less technical in my opinion, and I just like 185s being just flexible and just faster and just more limber.
It makes sense. You're about what, 6'2", 6'3"?
6'3.5", yeah, 6'4".
Nice. Yeah, that's a good length for that weight, man. You definitely got to be one of the longer guys. Now, in this matchup with Mason Fowler coming up on May 23rd, Submission Underground, Chael Sonnen's organization on Fight Pass. You guys don't want to miss this. In this organization, this is going to be the absolute, and does that mean both you and Mason can weigh whatever you want? Or is there a cap?
Yes, correct. So
Okay.
I believe Mason. No, there's no cap. Like there's no way. Like he can weigh whatever he wants. It's absolute. So yeah, I'm guessing he's probably gonna come in probably 220, something probably maybe more. I don't know. Depends how he feels or what strategy he's trying to implement. But nothing changed for me. I'm still gonna be light, under 200, 185. You know, however I feel. You know, that's just how I've always been. That's how I like to compete.
Makes sense. And so you're gonna be under 200. He might be a little bit over. And how significant is that, man? You seem like a guy who flows and is confident with what you're doing, and you've got a really good instinct and innate knowledge of your body and you know, and what your goal is. But like, are you just gonna like kind of see how it plays out there? Obviously, I think you're not gonna deliberately try to be no heavier than 85, but are you open to coming in at 190? Are you open to coming in at 195 or 7? If you want to keep some of this a secret, go ahead, because I'm not trying to put you in a situation where your secrets are all out here. But as much as you want to tell us, is there a range that you're kind of targeting, or you're thinking, and you're just going to kind of let it play out, or is it going to come down to something maybe deliberate in the final couple weeks?
So my game plan is to do my cut like I always do, be really disciplined, do all my same things I usually do for training camp, you know, nothing more, nothing less really. And then make weight, you know, get to 185, maybe 184, we'll see. A couple of days, maybe a day or two before a comp, and then rehydrate and just compete. So you know, depending on whatever my body wants to put back on, you know, I might come in a little bit heavier than 85. But that's just where my body likes to be. You know, I kind of just do the same routines, you know, and then I feel always strong. I just have a strong training camp. As long as my numbers keep coming up in training camp, I just feel like my body will be ready.
Excellent. I know in MMA, people want to get someone that can mimic someone they're competing against, especially at the higher levels. Do you do that at 10th Planet? Do you try to say, let me find a guy whose body and size is similar to Mason Fowler? And do you have guys like that, or is that something you don't even care about over at 10th Planet Oceanside, or what's your thought, may I ask?
Yeah, you kind of get like bigger guys. If I know I'm gonna go against a bigger guy, you know, we're not gonna try to match the style exactly. Like, just get somebody that's around 220, 210, 215, get used to tossing that weight around, feeling that weight around, you know, wrestling with those type of people, you know. Style wise, get people heavy pressure, you know, good guys that are like good at passing and stuff like that. But yeah, we kind of focus on that, but at the end of the day, at 10th Planet, I feel like we just focus on ourselves, you know, focus on our own technique, focus on being our own person, you know, like if we play our game, you know, why we got to worry about somebody else? So we're just really into ourselves, I guess, if you want to say that.
I like that. It makes sense. It makes sense. Now, you've done some training with Craig Jones, and Mason competed at with Craig Jones, losing to him once in ADCC, beating him both in SUG. Do you take anything from that? Obviously, Craig Jones is not 6'3.5", 6'4" like yourself. So it does present, you are presenting something different to Mason, not the exact same body as Craig Jones, but both of you guys are heavy on the leg locks. Can you take something from Craig Jones's matches with Mason in SUG at all for what you're going to do in that matchup?
Yeah, I could take a little bit. I feel like Craig's kind of similar. He likes playing guard, he likes playing legs. So I can see how maybe Mason attacks him. Maybe I can take something from him. But me, I never been one big one. Excuse me. I never been one to look at film as much. I've been one just to kind of trust my coaches. So I will look at some things maybe, but I feel like I'm just different than a lot of people. So how he approaches Craig might be different how he's gonna approach me. So it could be benefits of watching it, but you never know. He might do something completely different. He might pull guard on me. You know, he didn't really do that against Craig. So
that's true. It will be interesting. You know, another question for you that a fan had. There are several African Brazilian high-ranked guys, but they're not seeing a lot of African American high-ranked BJJ guys. Are there some other guys with you, or are you seem to me maybe one of the few? Is that true? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, that's the guy's facts. Yeah, that's speaking facts. I know we have one, my brother Marvin. You know, he's at HQ, Marvin Castell. You know, he's another one, another black belt, African American. Yeah, it's a couple of us, you know, but he's speaking facts.
Yeah,
it's not that many. Yeah.
Interesting. And do you think possibly you could bring some more interest into the sport and into the African American community just by being there? And if so, is that something that would be interesting or important to you, or would that be distracting for you to think about?
No, absolutely. I would love to be like a person that can shine like a positive light to our community. I just feel like right now, jiu-jitsu is still breaking like the mainstream. You know, I feel like once we start breaking more into that mainstream and they start seeing more people that look like them, you know, I feel like more African American community will be more like, oh, I guess we can do this kind of sport. I just feel like it's one of those things like right now, it's so, I don't want to say white dominant or anything like that. Maybe it doesn't seem as welcoming, you know, but once we start seeing more of us in a forefront, still doing well and stuff like that, it might be more welcoming, if that makes more sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense because the bottom line is that, you know, I think as years go by and a sport becomes more popular, then there's definitely going to be a greater variety, I think, of people with different backgrounds competing, you know. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that that's a good thing. And you're definitely really, I think, kind of a role model, I think, right there. And you might not even know it, you know, for people looking at what you're doing. So what does jiu-jitsu mean to you, man? Obviously, it's something that's really important, but obviously you're an educated guy and you're thinking about law school and you know, focusing on other things that are important in your life and career. But what does jiu-jitsu bring to you, and how much does it, you know, affect your life and make you happy? And what have you learned, would you say, from jiu-jitsu?
Man, jiu-jitsu, I feel like it's such a deep question for me. I feel like it gave me such stability and courage, and I feel like so many different things, and trust and family. Like, you know, I feel like jiu-jitsu, anything that's going on in life, you know, I feel like I can go to jiu-jitsu gym, you know, and like if I'm dealing with stress outside world or anger from the outside world or anything like that, I feel like I can go to the gym and it's like great energy from your teammates, you know. I mean, like when you're getting strangled or dealing with a submission, you can't think about the outside world, you know what I mean? So I was like, jiu-jitsu just brings me so much calm in that aspect, you know. And I felt like outside, I feel like jiu-jitsu gave me a bunch of discipline to help me in school, finish school, you know, be focused, hit dean's list, you know. It just gave me a sense of knowing what I needed to do and help me with my time management. I feel like jiu-jitsu is just gave me so much more structure, you know. Jiu-jitsu to me is just more, it's a lifestyle. It's something I'm gonna be doing for the rest of my life, you know. It's just, I want to be part of this journey, you know. I want to ride this wave until, you know, I can't no more, you know. I don't feel like I ever want to just jump off. It's something I want to teach my kids, and, you know, and teach the random person, you know, like on the street. I just want to share it, you know. I just feel like jiu-jitsu is everything to me.
Absolutely, well stated. It really is an important thing. It's amazing. It really can, you know, just help with being peaceful and calm and confident. And you know, I remember there was this great documentary. It was on YouTube a while back. It probably still is. I don't know if you remember it, but I think it was a European guy from somewhere who was talking about jiu-jitsu being like his religion. I don't know if you ever saw this, but they were showing it a lot about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And he was telling all about how like his parents would ask about, is he going to church? And he would say, you know, I'm going to church, you know, 5 days a week in my jiu-jitsu school. This is where I get my peace, where I get my serenity, where I get my spirituality, you know? And I remember one sequence he talked about being on a train, and he was on a train with a crowd of people, and he looked at one guy that had, you know, his ears, cauliflower ears all jacked up, kind of a tough, strong-looking guy. And he said he smiled at him, and at first the guy was looking back at him like, what are you smiling at? And then he pointed at his own ear. And the guy looked at his ear and then like smiled at him and gave him a thumbs up. And he said, there really is like that, right? There really is that brotherhood and camaraderie, isn't there?
That's core. There's nothing like it. You have blood, sweat, and tears on that person. You know, even if you don't, you have an experience with that specific person, you know, they experience with a whole nother part of the, you're part of like that same community, you know? So it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And people can do it at any ages. You know what, here's something that I hadn't thought of. One thing that I've been saying for years is, for women, I can't see any martial art better for self-defense, right? For self-defense, and especially for women, for self-defense against like a sexual assault. It just seems to me that obviously maybe if someone's being beaten down or if they're being punched unconscious, perhaps maybe it may not save their life, or if they're being stabbed or something like that, you know. But the bottom line is, don't you agree that if a woman were to get proficient in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that just that knowledge and that confidence and that physical strength and the technique would be absolutely huge in making her much less likely to be a victim of an assault like that?
Oh, I totally agree, 100%. You know, just think about some of the situations, like if you're getting attacked from behind or something like that, or if you're getting held on the ground or something like that, just having good guard, you know, be able to, you know, get an arm drag to the back, anything like that, you know, be super helpful, you know. Like, I definitely believe jiu-jitsu is probably the most beneficial, just understanding grips and control, body control and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
It's really true. But, you know, one thing that I think is hard for a lot of women to overcome is jiu-jitsu. You know, in a way, I mean, there's a closeness to it. Guys, you know, we don't have any desire to be getting sweated on by other guys. It's not any sort of super fun to us. It's the sport. Women, though, I think even find it even less appealing to be that physically close to someone that isn't their boyfriend, or, you know, how is that something that can be overcome? And is there anything over at 10th Planet Riverside that will let a woman come in and kind of realize what her mindset will be and get her over that? Because it seems like it's a hard sell. A woman comes in once, smiles and says, I'm never coming back here where someone's putting their body on mine, sweating on me and like that. I don't know. What's your thought? Because I feel bad that more women are not able to see, man, this is worth it. You have to overcome this. But what's your thought on that? And how have they been able to help women over at 10th Planet Oceanside?
Yeah, at 10th Planet Oceanside, there's multiple different ways, you know. You can have them bring a girlfriend that they feel comfortable with, and you can do a private session, you know, because that's only her and another girl, you know, and it's just their sweat. She's already comfortable with them. They probably done some type of physical activity together before, you know.
Right.
And then I'm hands off, you know. I could just teach through technique, and they can just work with each other. You know, that's a very good way to get them comfortable. They could come into a class that's multiple, you know, girls and guys, of course, a regular scheduled class, and they could just do technique with that specific partner too. It doesn't have to be with some don't know. It could be somebody they're comfortable with, and they don't have to do the roles aspect when they're super sweaty, you know, because technique is different than roles. You know, you can get technique without being super sweaty. True. It just depends on your pace, you know. So you could do that until they start feeling more comfortable with that sweat. You know, they can start building up that intensity, and they can start doing the roles, and they can start getting different body partners, and they can, you know what I mean, and then. But I just feel like just making them feel comfortable. You know, at the end of the day, you want them to feel safe.
Absolutely.
Have a safe.
Absolutely, it's very important. Now, here's a question. I had a girlfriend that I was training back years ago with, and there were hardly ever any girls in the class. And she was happy with that because she would roll with me and some other guys that really respected her, and they were much bigger, so everyone was going like 20% speed with her, and she was, you know, doing great, sweeping people, submitting people. But I used to always say, I mean, at some point, that's not real. At some point, she's got her, and she's, oh, I don't care if I ever roll with a woman. And I was trying to tell her, I was saying, you know what though, but then you're not really going to get the feel of it. So like, have you ever seen that where a woman's just saying, I'm okay rolling with my boyfriend, having all these guys go real light on me, and then you have to kind of let them know that, you know, that can't be your only experience in the beginning? Yes, but have you ever seen a situation where they feel like that's just all they're going to do? They never want to roll with another woman and have anyone go hard.
Yeah, but like in those situations, I felt like it's a comfortable kind of thing. Like there's maybe just not in they don't want to stay in their box. So that I don't try to force it, you know. I just try to encourage it. Like what is your goals? You know, if their goals are compete to be world champion, okay, we may have to have a different conversation. Like, okay, we're gonna have to have you go against a girl once in a while, maybe not all the time, but just so the girl's gonna you can feel that. Because the girl's not gonna really take it easy on you, you know what I mean? A guy's gonna take it easy, they don't want to hurt you and stuff like that. But if she wants to just be a casual, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a casual kind of person, I guess, you know. And you just wait till they're more comfortable to go out their comfort zone. They can go with that guy if they want to feel comfortable for a while. But I just feel it just depends on the person and my experience, you know. But if they want to be competitive or if they have a end goal of like trying to protect themselves, then you got like, okay, if you're gonna protect yourself, you're not only gonna go against a girl on the street, you know. You're gonna go against guys like that, and you're gonna have to go feel that live, or that feels like when they really want to hurt you and stuff like that and stuff. So you just gotta have that kind of that talk with them, in my experience.
Absolutely, that makes sense. We've only got about 4 minutes left with you, Kyle. So let me ask you another quick, interesting question. I've recently seen someone throw out there, I think it may have been an MMA fighter who has done jiu-jitsu for years, where he said, you know, anyone that's starting on their knees in their jiu-jitsu class is just full of crap. You can't do anything. It's bullshit. You're not even doing the sport. You're not getting any benefit. And like, I understand where they were coming from, but this is one thing that you probably get. You're 28, you're in great shape, you're young. But if you had like your father or your uncle in there and telling them they're going to start on their feet and then have someone throw them on the ground, you know, they could smash their leg, their hip, their neck out of place. So what do you say for people that are either older or that have injuries and that were not athletic, when someone's saying, man, you have to start on your feet in jiu-jitsu, because if you don't, it's just bullshit and you're not doing it, you're not getting any benefit of? Because I kind of feel like you're asking someone then to put themselves in physical danger. What's your thought?
Yeah. No, man. Like we have guys at our gym that are all ages, like 55, 60, you know. And we don't. I just feel like that they have different rules, man. Like, you know, they're not as young as us. If they're not competing, it's almost like the same conversation we just had prior.
Right.
I don't think they have to do everything we do necessarily, you know. They're not coming to really compete, maybe, you know. Maybe they're just coming just because they love this lifestyle,
right?
You know, this gives them stress relief. They have a full family, you know what I mean? You don't gotta deal with the critics. They don't. I just feel like they should just do their own thing. Don't worry about what the other people say. They should just do their own journey, play their specific game that's gonna allow them to do jiu-jitsu forever. Because I know I have an athletic style personally right now, but I know when I get older, my style might change, you know. So what I'll say to those critics is like, they should need mind their own business. Let the old guys do what they do.
Exactly, and I agree, because obviously it's ideal if you're young and healthy enough to start on your feet as it would be normally. But if you're not young and healthy enough, I think you can still get some benefit starting on your knees, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of techniques that you could be effective at starting on your knees.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, last thing I'll say in the last couple of minutes we got you here is you are also going to be competing on May 7th at Gym Crashers Pro in San Pedro. I am really excited because I will be there, and I'll actually be joining the booth on your fight. I will make sure to let the commentators that are there have all the respect and do most of the talking, but I'll definitely show some excitement and enthusiasm. Tell us really quick what you think about the Gym Crashers Pro promotion, and if you you have any thoughts about anyone you're competing with, or I guess that won't even be picked until the day of, but tell us a little quick thought for another minute or so on this great May 7th matchup in Gym Crashers Pro number 2.
We got a great team experience, man. Another 3v3 tournament. On the first one was in Texas. My team actually won, got the W's. It was always ran by Outlife CBD, one of my sponsors. Great company, great CBD company. Everything's always ran super smooth. On May 7th, San Pedro, like you just said, we're gonna have another 3v3 Gym Crasher Pro event. My team, our Life CBD fight team, we're coming in with 3 black belts. Ricky Lule, Kevin Burbridge, the OGs from Ten Planet Vista, now Ten Planet Oceanside. We're coming back, man, full force. We're gonna get that belt. We're gonna be double champs, 2 years running. Just stay tuned. I see everybody there.
Absolutely, and that's going to be pay-per-view. You can get it for $14.95 on Fight TV. So, guys, don't miss it. I'm going to look forward to being there. I'm going to look forward to seeing you there. Kyle Chambers, so excited to talk to you. Really, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the MMA Power Hour.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Hopefully we talk to you guys soon.
You're very welcome, for sure. Have a great night. And that was Kyle Chambers.
Hey guys, it's Prahadska, Dominic, and we are back again this week on MMA Power Hour for another betting and fight odds segment. We are going to be looking at UFC Fight Night, Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prahadska. And last week, UFC 261, wow, what a crazy card. I was actually able to be there live in Jacksonville, and wow, that was just such an amazing event, especially after like so long of not being able to go to live events. Last week we went 3 for 3 in our parlay. We had Rodrigo Vargas versus Zhu Rong going over the 2.5 rounds there, and also Rose Namajunas and Anthony Smith in that parlay of picks. So hopefully that carries over into this week as we're going to be looking at this Saturday's event. I have actually put in the main and the co-main event into my parlays. I normally never do that because everything's so well matched up, but I am very, very confident in Dominic Reyes, Cub Swanson, going to be taking on Giga Gikadzi there, and then Luke Sanders starting off the prelims against Felipe Colares. That's going to be at 145. Both are bantamweights, but they both had like last minute opponents, last minute changes, and they're fighting each other now. So that's going to definitely be an exciting way to start off the card. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So first up in our picks, Luke Saunders is going to be taking on Vargas versus Zhu Rong going over the 2.5 rounds there, and also Rose Namajunas and Anthony Smith in that parlay of picks. So hopefully that carries over into this week as we're going to be looking at this Saturday's event. I have actually put in the main and the co-main event into my parlays. I normally never do that because everything's so well matched up, but I am very, very confident in Dominic Reyes, Cub Swanson, going to be taking on Giga Gikadzi there, and then Luke Sanders starting off the prelims against Felipe Colares. That's going to be at 145. Both are bantamweights, but they both had like last minute opponents, last minute changes, and they're fighting each other now. So that's going to definitely be an exciting way to start off the card. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So first up in our picks, Luke Saunders is going to be taking on Felipe Colares. Colares comes in at plus 125, plus 120, and Luke Sanders at minus 145, minus 160, minus 150. So I think that's a fair line there. I do think with kind of all the moving around of so many of these fights on this card here, they end up coming together and fighting each other at 145. So Luke Sanders coming in here 13-4, Felipe Colares 9-2. He just came off of a unanimous decision loss against Montel Jackson, and whoa, that fight was really exciting. If you have not seen it, you should watch it. It definitely displays the heart from Felipe, but I think there it really showed that, you know, as far as striking, like, the amount of shots he absorbed makes me a little bit nervous, and especially facing someone like Luke Saunders, although, you know, there is a bit of an age difference there with Felipe being 27 and Saunders being 35. I mean, even Saunders getting finished in his last fight against Nate Maness, that was an interesting fight. I definitely think Luke hits harder and he's going to be faster than Felipe. So it'll be really interesting to see his approach there. But I think that if it were Luke instead of Montel Jackson, although Montel Jackson has good striking, you know, his foundation is wrestling. So when you kind of think of being a southpaw, tricky southpaw, too, very fast, very explosive, and he's going to come in there and he's going to come forward and he's going to bully you. It'll be really interesting to see what Felipe's game plan is for that, although his chin proved to be very durable in his last outing. I mean, you can't be getting hit by Luke. Okay, you're not going to have that many tries. Like, you're just not. So, I really like the veteranship here, even though Felipe Colares, this is not his first fight in the UFC, but he is 1 for 2, and that one win was a split decision. So he still has a lot to prove here. It could be kind of a do-or-die situation for him. And with Luke, this is his first fight back after having a child, I believe. He was supposed to fight, he was scheduled to fight, I think, Damon Jackson, and it was just a little bit too close to when his wife is supposed to have a kid. So I think that's really interesting as well when fighters have children. Like, we're going to see if something changes there. If you have a family, you have a young one, you know, to provide for, that really, you know, you tend to see a little bit of a spark in a fighter's game. So that should be interesting. But I am going to be taking the vet here and Luke to get the job done. So I'll be taking him at minus 145, minus 150. I think that's a great line for him. So shooting our way all the way up the card, pretty much, we're going to be looking at the co-main event, Cub Swanson versus Giga Gikadzi. Gikadzi coming in here at 12-2, and Cub Swanson coming in here at 27-11. Odds makers have Cub Swanson as the dog here, plus 135, plus 140, plus 120, and Giga Gikadzi coming in, you know, under minus 200, minus 155, minus 169, minus 160. So, I mean, I guess, you know, that's fair. That's fair, I guess. I am going to be taking the dog here in Cub Swanson, but let's go ahead and start with Giga Gikadzi at 32, 7-fight win streak. He came over from kickboxing and he was like, you know, coming over to UFC, knockout artist, put everybody to sleep type thing. And then when he made the, you know, kind of the switch to MMA and going into the UFC, he still had yet to find that finish. And he was able to get that in his last outing in November of 2020. So I believe one of the last cards of 2020. And you know, I mean, Jamie Simmons had come in there, like, super short notice. It'll be interesting to see, like, now that they've been matched up, like, Giga Gikadzi has had, like, such bad luck, and he hasn't really been able to, like, prove what he can do, because it's, like, a lot of his fights are, like, short notice. Like, something happened to his opponent, and he had to, like, find a new opponent, and it was just, you know, all over the place. But, you know, he has 2 split decision wins, 2 unanimous decisions, and then 1 most recently against Jamie Simmons with the round 1 head kick, which was pretty slick. But at the same time, you know, obviously good striking. He actually has a very good chin on him, good movement. It's hard, like I said, it's hard to gauge his improvement, really. I mean, the fact that he's been able to go out there and get it done, you know, went 5 for 5 inside the UFC, but this is the big test, you know, Cub Swanson is legit, okay, especially on the ground. I think this is the greatest ground threat that Giga Gikadzi has faced so far, with such a high-level black belt in Cub Swanson, and it's not like he hasn't trained, you know, defensive grappling. He did show his takedown defense against Omar Morales, and a little bit against Jamie Simmons in the early goings there. And, you know, being at King's MMA, it's not like he doesn't have grapplers to work with, but that is still something I would say that is secondary to his striking. So that'll be a really interesting way to kind of see what his game plan is or has been for Cub, someone who's so dangerous everywhere, and especially like in the striking. Like, Cub Swanson's hands are very underestimated. Coming off of a win against Daniel Pineda, I actually had Cub Swanson in that. I thought he had the better hands there, even though Daniel Pineda was huge. He looked huge in there. And Giga Gikadzi is a big dude too, you know, very tall, very long. But one thing that really kind of gravitated me towards Cub Swanson's striking is you really started to see the development there. You know, being over with Yoel Diaz out in India. Yoel is a really big, renowned boxing coach in the boxing world. Like, if you're like embedded in boxing a little bit, like, you'll know, like, he has a very good school and he brings up young fighters as well. He has like a stable. It's very similar to Robert Garcia's boxing gym in Riverside. They're bringing up like talent, you know, they know how to develop talent. And that's not saying that other types of schools, other types of things don't, but in boxing especially, there tends to be like a one-on-one trainer thing. Like, not very many people have these enormous schools that they work in and they bring fighters up. Not everybody has that program, but Yoel Diaz does out there in India. And Cub Swanson, you know, his ins and outs, this is how you can tell, like, his boxing is so clean. Like, his ins and outs, like, are so nice. Like, the way that he can get in, the way that he angles off, the way that he's able to get out. He always is ducking kind of, you know, the right way, and is very quick in you know, his combinations, very wily in his combinations. And you know, although Giga Gikadzi is that kickboxer, you know, I trust in Cub Swanson's hands. Like, I just do. And in his last fight, he took a lot of damage to his legs. And everyone was kind of like, ooh, the ACL, whatever, you know. But against Daniel Pineda, I mean, it started folding a little bit. But, dude, he got hit like 8,000 times there. Like, it's good, you know, we're good. Now that we know that, you know, it'll be very interesting to see him facing off against Giga Gikadzi and really being able to I think he can impose his will anywhere it goes. And the fact that he can get in and out, especially on a kickbox, like someone that has good angles, is very quick forward and backward, good counters. I really trust in his ability to get out of the way and be able to close the distance. I think he can do that. And I also think that he can take him down if he were to get a hold of him. So, and then once it gets down to the ground, I mean, you know, we've yet to see Giga Gikadzi like flat on his back. So I think that'll be a really interesting thing to kind of look at when we're looking at this matchup, especially for Giga. As far as his grappling goes, this is a really big test. And another thing about Cub Swanson, not saying that Giga Gikadzi doesn't necessarily have this, but Cub's heart is like unmeasured. Kind of like, if you look at, like, for me, like, as long as I've been, you know, kind of tuned into MMA and have been watching kind of by era, I guess, if you will, one of the most powerful moments for me that I've seen in MMA was after he beat Kron Gracie. And oh man, like, the emotion, like, what it meant to him, like, how he feels about it. Like, he's so strong on how he feels about this game and what he does. And, you know, just to see that emotion, it was so raw. Like, it's one of the, you know, kind of things that's kind of ingrained in my mind as far as like moments in MMA for me. And just to see how bad he wants it, how bad he wants to be here and to be successful and, you know, to grow. Like, I've seen, like, as many fights as Cub Swanson has, like, he's still growing, and I like that. And in Giga Gikadzi's sort of development in MMA, you kind of see the same thing. Now, could that be because of the opponents, because of the situation? We don't know. So going into this fight, there's a lot of questions, but I trust in Cub Swanson. That's the reason why I'm going with him here. I don't normally pick the dogs, but I guess last week I was kind of doing that. So I am going to be taking Cub Swanson at plus 140, plus 150. Really would like to know your thoughts on this. This is a very interesting co-main event. Finally, heading up the parlay, it's going to be Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prohadska. And Yuri comes in here at 27, 3-1, okay? hella fights. Dominic Reyes 12-2. But again, I mean, Dominic Reyes, let's kind of talk about him for a second. I am going to be taking him in this parlay. And he's like barely an underdog, okay? Plus 110, plus 105, plus 100. Yuri coming in here. Prohadska coming in here at minus 139, minus 130. Dominic Reyes 31 on a 2-fight losing streak. But again, one is, well, they fought for the belt in his last outing against Jan Blachowicz and against John Jones, which arguably people had him winning that fight. And that was for 2020. He fought twice in 2020. Now, I watched back the Jan fight, and, you know, I think the difference was there, like, John Jones is not necessarily, okay, trying to knock you out. Like, he's not necessarily, if it presents itself, he's going to take that opportunity, but he's not necessarily, like, that is, like, number one on the priorities to knock you out, you know? Like, Jan has that. He just be flicking people and they just fall dead. And you're like, what is happening, you know? And I think that type of power, like, there's a reason, right? Polish power, like, he has it. Like, Jan has it. And I don't think Dominic Reyes has ever felt nothing like that. Because when he started to get, like, really, like, hit, okay? Like, there was something on his face that, like, changed. Like, his eyes were like, ooh. And then he had, like, a footprint on his rib, you know? Like, that was new. That whole situation was new to him. And, you know, he did stay composed until he was like, you know what? We're actually going to, like, slug it out in a brawl. And then it kind of got back and forth and crazy. And then he ends up getting, like, hit with that shot and then ultimately finished. And so I think that was kind of, it looked to me like Dominic Reyes just kind of lost his composure and got a little emotional there. I mean, you're getting hit by a truck. So, you know, whatever you do in that situation is going to be okay. You know, it's like, I get it. You know, yeah, it's like your job, but I get it. I understand. So, Dominic Reyes, I mean, he's had a lot of fights in the UFC coming off the LFA circuit there. Reyes, southpaw, has a lot of kicks, a lot of leg kicks. And so I'm interested to see how Reyes employs that against Prahadska, because that's what he's going to need. Straight up, that's what he's going to need, because he's so unorthodox, but he's hittable. He's definitely hittable. And I think, you know, even in his last fight against Volkan Ozdemir, it was kind of like, you know, kind of a slow starter, very much of a showman, you know, playing around in there, like talking, all that stuff, switching stances, very unorthodox, hands super low. Like, we have never seen a style like this, like, straight up, like, we just haven't. You know, and he before this he came off of Reyes, and he did fight some fighters that were formerly in the UFC. So it's not like his competition is like has been like way below the UFC. That's not the case at all. But I do think that this is his first like real, like, Dominic Reyes is in his prime. You know, Dominic Reyes is in his prime, and I think that, you know, a lot of what happened in the Volkan fight is Volkan just tried to impose what he thought was his shot in that moment, and, you know, from there, you know, I mean, he was out for a long time, so it's not like Prohadska does not have power. This dude has power, and he has one-punch power as well, and he comes in super, super unorthodox, leaping uppercuts, coming through, like, he switched stances pretty seamlessly, doesn't cross his legs that much. That's one thing that I do get a little bit nervous about with Dominic Reyes, is he crosses his legs a lot. Like, his footwork isn't great. But because he's kind of an athlete, he can make it work. And his upper body movement is very good. Very good. The way that he can move, duck, dip, slip, all of those things. He has very good upper body. And it's like, I mean, he is mostly upper body. His legs seem to be a little bit on the less leg, more body situation. But like, so that's going to be really interesting. But I do think that Dominic Reyes can pull it out here. I think as far as the overall mixed martial artist, we know a little bit more about him as far as him competing against UFC caliber opponents. The fact that he was able to hang with John Jones there, I think as far as like an unorthodox striking style, he should be okay. I think if he comes up against Power again, that might be when I question him. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, really, this is going to be one that I'm going to be looking at just to see where these fighters are at. Both extremely talented fighters. This is a great main event, I think. So there we have it, folks. We're going to be taking the underdog Dominic Reyes, the underdog Cub Swanson, and the slight favorite in Luke Sanders. Please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Francesca_Dominique. Also give MMA Power Hour a follow there at MMA Power Hour on Instagram. And please let me know your thoughts, comments. I'd be interesting to see how you see this main event and what you think of Dominic Reyes looking to kind of get back in the win column there. But anyways, enjoy your weekend, and we will see you next week.
And welcome back.
Thank you to the awesome Francesca Dominique, and I'm not sure if we got cut off of that segment. A big thank you to our last guest, Kyle Chambers, as well as we think Mason Fowler. Both men are amazing. It's going to be a great match. Anyway, Dr. Adam Roorda, when you can, get working on getting our next guest in here.
We got a nice little surprise guest for you guys. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and make sure to go on over to our social media. Give us likes, comments, shares, follows. Colin's trying to point at it there.
Yep.
Cameras. It's like the first time you're using a mirror when you're a kid, right? Trying to comb your hair. It's like, go in the opposite direction. You got to do it the opposite direction from the mirror now.
There
Colin.
you go. Exactly. Anyway, but thank you. Yes, please go check out our website. It's awesome. We appreciate the support, and Dr. Adam Roorda is doing amazing work with our team there, and amazing job. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for support. Surprise guest coming here, and can't wait to talk to him. A man, 6-time Fight of the Night award winner in the UFC, and a legend and pioneer in fighting. Now, top commentator for Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship. Let's get him on here. Skype dance, baby. Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yo, what's happening?
Everything all good. I just want to make sure you can hit the video button when you have a minute, and then we'll be off and running. Tell me when you're good.
You need me to do the video? Okay, let me hop up to my. I'll get up to my room then. I'm actually at the bare knuckle thing, so it'll take me 2 minutes.
Not a problem. I'll give you the intro while you're getting up there. I really appreciate you jumping in. No
problem.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are excited to have this next guest on our show. This is one of the best commentators on television in the world of Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship. You also know him as a 6-time Fight of the Night award bonus winner in the UFC, perennial top contender, winner of so many amazing fights. The man had the whole game: Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some wrestling, amazing striking, and I know he's getting up to a place where he'll get a video on, but we're so happy to have back on the show Mr. Chris Lights Out Lytle. Welcome back to the show, Chris. And we're going to reconnect with him again so we can get that.
Yeah, I mean, he's on an elevator or something right now.
That's got to be what it is. We lost reception. Chris, we're going to get him back.
He's right there.
Chris,
hello?
Excellent. Chris, can you hear me?
I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Not a problem, brother. We lost you. So I know you're getting to somewhere where you can do the video, and that's fine. So
yes.
While you're getting there, we just did the introduction, and whenever you get the video going, we'll continue. But since we have the audio, we can start here. So I am excited to talk to you. I know we have about 8 or 9 minutes. So first, let me ask you, in the 3 title fights in the UFC this past weekend, did any of the fights turn out extremely surprising to you?
I'd pretty much say all of them.
Yeah, it's true.
It was a great night of fights, man, but a lot of unpredictable things were going on there, and it was, I mean, you know, that's why people love fighting. You never know what's going to happen, and that night really proved it. I mean, there was just a lot of chaos, a lot of I mean, legs were being broken and people
Yep.
were being knocked out like horribly. It wasn't even regular knockouts.
Yep.
I'm in my room. Let me see if I can't get this video to work.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So while you do that,
hold
I'll
on. How do I? There.
No problem. So yeah, there we go. Awesome. Appreciate you a lot, Chris. You're good here. So yeah, I agree, man. So much incredibly crazy action. So I think starting out from the lower down fights or the middle of the rope, middle fights, Jimmy Crute against Anthony Lionheart Johnson. Let me ask you, because you've been striking for many years, as well as your jiu-jitsu, but what the heck happened? Jimmy Crute is a 25-year-old, big, strong, healthy guy. He got kicked, I think, in the outside of the knee or between the calf and the knee. And his right leg. A friend of mine gave his opinion. I was watching, and this guy's been a teacher, karate teacher, and he fought in the smokers and other stuff, nowhere near your level, but a really bright guy. He told me he thinks there has to have been some sort of previous injury to Jimmy Crute's leg. You don't think so? Or did he just kick him in a nerve, or what the heck happened? What made that happen to Crute?
I was talking to Tom Schoaf today. He's here at the BKFC. Got the bare knuckle fight coming up Friday.
Yep.
And he was talking about, it's called Deadfoot, man. He said he had it where he was training. Somebody kicked him in that spot. And then he kind of said, ooh, it felt kind of funny. And they kicked him again. Like, man. And then the guy kicked it a third time. And he said it felt like he couldn't feel his foot anymore. And he thought, he tried to put weight on it. He kind of fell. He said it lasted for like a day. He just couldn't really do anything with it. He's like, you could still feel, but you can't move it. And I wasn't familiar with these, and that's exactly what happened. And just from getting that nerve right there being kicked, and it is what it is. I'm shocked because I've been around I haven't seen it. It's never happened to me, and I've been kicked a lot. So Tom Schoaf said he had it happen to him before, and he said, yeah, it's a legit thing, man. You just there's no getting over it right away. It has nothing to do with toughness, because you can see the guy was game. He took him down afterwards and was like, it's not gonna work for a day. You know what I mean?
No. Is it almost like being hit in the funny bone or something? Kind of similar. It sounds like
something like that, but more. It lasts longer, obviously. I don't really know. He said his lasted about a day. I don't know if that's typical or what.
Right. That's wild. I know that. I think when Sugar Sean O'Malley got beat by Marlon Chito Vera, it wasn't that exact same thing, but I know that Sugar Shane's kind of thought, and tell me this if you've ever thought of this, because I don't think anything weird like that ever happened to you in a fight, but you fought so many times in professional ranks and as well as probably training in the gym. I remember Sugar Sean kind of looked at his fight like that and said, you know what, if a guy beats me like that, he didn't really beat me. If a guy beat me like that, I can't consider that I got beat. What's your thought? Can someone think that way, or is it reasonable?
I mean, you could think that way, but you could think that about anything. You could think, well, I got cut. That's not really a loss. I mean,
right.
Well, he called me I don't know. If you can't keep going, you lose. You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
So, what else are you gonna say?
Right.
I was on top once, and I remember, and I was passing guard, and I got hit with an elbow from bottom, and they stopped the fight. Why? Because I was bleeding too much, they said.
Right.
What can I say?
Right.
So do I consider it a loss? Yeah. I mean, I still feel like the way I look at it, if it was a real life fight with life and death on the line, I would have killed the guy and I wouldn't have died. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that doesn't mean anything. No, this isn't life or death. This was a fight. You know what I mean? So you could continue to say, hey, if this was a real life and my foot was dead, I'd continue to fight and I'd have made it. I can't argue that, but hell, this is a contest and you didn't win. I mean, this guy couldn't stand up.
Yeah.
He lost.
And he wasn't complaining.
Is it the same as like being knocked out? Not at all. But I mean, somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to lose every fight.
It's true. And I know Crute wasn't complaining. At 25 years old, he's got a lot of time. He's a tough kid, and he'll be back. And then it's so weird in that next fight, man. I think, was Chris Weidman just getting into the UFC as you were leaving, or did you miss seeing him?
No, he was...
a little bit after?
I can't remember if he was just getting on, burst on the scene or right afterwards. But no, Yeah, I think it was right afterwards because he came in, and it was his second fight that he beat Anderson. The same thing. It's so weird that there's one. What have there been like 4 or 5 of those in the UFC history, and he's involved with 2 of them.
Yeah, that was so crazy. I mean, for that to happen to him, and I know there was some argument online where some jerk idiots were saying, "Oh, there's karma for you." No, that's not karma. Chris Weidman never tried to break Anderson Silva's leg, and Uriah Hall didn't try to break Chris Weidman's leg. It's just, it happens. It's just kicking the shin, and it is what it is. I think that with Anderson, I think he just had so much confidence, and I think he also found that Chris Weidman hadn't checked kicks in their first fight, so I don't think he didn't expect and then Weidman saying, his camp was saying check the kicks, right? In this fight, I mean, Weidman isn't really a super experienced striker, but I think he kind of thought to himself, man, people are getting, these low leg kicks and calf kicks are becoming the new thing in the UFC. So, and then he just kind of threw that in there, and it's unfortunate that happened. And I know we don't have too many minutes left, so let me jump off that, but it is what it is. But okay, so in the main fights, Valentina just absolutely dominating and using her grappling pretty much for the whole fight, man. Talk about a great strategy. I don't think anyone expected that. It sure looked like the Jessica Andrade corner didn't expect that. I think if Valentina would have not done that, I think Andrade had a chance in that fight. At least I thought so. But man, how good is Valentina off of that fight? I'm sure you'll agree. Man,
Valentina, to me, I mean, I hate to say it like this because whenever you're like, man, that person, I don't see who's going to beat him. Somehow they get beat. You know what I mean? But she's pretty much at the top of her game right now. She doesn't appear to have any weaknesses, and she's super dedicated. It's not like she's just going to get arrogant and not train for a while or get too overcome. I don't know. She just seems hard to deal with at any level for anybody.
Yeah.
I think even if she stays on her feet, I think she does fine. I mean, she's very talented all around. I don't see her really having any problems right now.
No.
Unless freak accident happens, or it's MMA, man. There's one little thing has to go wrong.
Yep.
It'll happen at some point, but man, it's gonna be a huge upset in my opinion when she loses.
Absolutely. And I know we only got about 2 minutes left, so I think Rose, that was a great kick. I actually picked Rose. I didn't know she'd win that quick and easy, but it just shows that shit happens. Kamaru Usman, I'm sure you'll agree, is probably one of the best welterweights we've ever seen in the UFC. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, and I like seeing it like that because, to be honest with you, he's put on some performances that I've been like, man, you're not winning many fans this way, brother. You know, I mean, before he fights. So I was glad to see him. I mean, he's got a great camp he works with, Henry Hoof and those guys, and great stand-up, great striking. But he's just all-around strong, hard to deal with, good, smart fighter. Just there to dominate you, but I mean, you want to put an exclamation point on it every now and again, and he did right there badly.
Absolutely. Trevor Whitman being in there with both him and Rose. In the last minute, if you can pull that up, Doctor, I want to get his opinion real quick. It looks like this weekend, I think there's not enough people that are super excited about Dominic Reyes and Yuri Prochazka. So can you go down a little bit, Doc, to the next UFC event? And let me see what it would be. Okay, so, and not even there. Okay, you know what? Let me ask you last real quick. Yoel Romero going up in weight. He's about 43 years old, going over to Bellator. He's going up against a younger, bigger man, but the younger, bigger man, Anthony Rumble Johnson, has not fought in 4 years. How do you give me a 30-40 second lights out breakdown on that? I'm thinking it's Rumble, but I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Man, Rumble, the good thing about him is, he quit when he had a lot left in the gas tank. There's not a lot of wear and tear on the body. He preserved himself, really. And I think he's dude hit so hard, so athletic. I still think he's going to be at the top of his game. The only thing you have to worry about with him is desire, if he really wants to be in there or not. And, I think he's had a 4-year break. I think he will want to be in there for a while. I don't know if that'll last for a long time, but I think he'll be up for this fight and he'll be ready to get back out there. And Anthony Rumble Johnson, a motivated guy is hard to deal with, especially at 205. And he's so strong so athletic, so explosive.
Yep.
Against a more limited guy, I think he has more ways to win, and he's going to touch you and he's going to hurt you.
I agree. Give us a real quick the next time we can watch BKFC.
BKFC is going to be on Friday, this Friday. Super excited about it. So check it out, man. It's the best deal in town. It's like $5 a month. Get the Bare Knuckle TV app, and I cannot believe, for a full year you're paying $60. That's like one UFC event, and you get probably going to get 15 events. So, man, if you don't come watch Bare Knuckle TV, you're a fool, man. This is the best. It's my favorite thing to watch anymore.
Excellent. And you are an amazing commentator on there, one of the best in the world. Chris, Lights Out Lytle, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time. Really appreciate you. Sorry to talk over you. You take care, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Take care. Good night. Dr. Adam Roorda, take the floor and wrap it up and tap out, and then I'll tap out. I'll do the same.
Yeah, I'm going to do it without a tap out shirt, and I'm going to go ahead and say thank you guys for tuning in to another amazing episode. Make sure to go on over to Nessa's Hemp. It's mmaph.nessashemp.com. Get yourself an amazing discount. Also, if you're on Fight TV watching, thank you so much. Also, head on over to YouTube, put in the search bar, The Hannibal TV, give a little subscribe, click on it, and those of you on YouTube, head on over to Fight TV. It's FITE.tv. Make sure to put in the search bar over there. Once you get signed up for free, go ahead and put in MMA Power Hour, and you can follow us over there. Thank you guys so much for another amazing episode of engagement from you guys. And Colin, thank you for another amazing episode. Until later, guys, I'm tapping out.
Excellent. Thanks for everything you do, Dr. Adam Roorda. It's awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it. Go out and spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl. It'll come back to you a million times over. Take care of your pets. They need it. God bless them. Unconditional love is what you get. And big love and respect from me to all of you. Look forward to seeing you next week for another great MMA Power Hour. And tonight I am tapping out.